Right. So today we're going to really dive deep
Mhm.
into this whole thing about President Trump's tariffs on
Yeah,
global supply chains.
right.
We've got this recent FreightWaves article
Okay,
as our guide,
great.
and this goes way beyond just like the numbers and stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's about where your phone is made, where your TV's made, what's on the shelves at the store.
Yeah, what you're buying every day, yeah.
Yeah, and even what you're going to eat.
Yeah, what's for dinner,
Yeah.
right. It really is interesting how these tariffs are, they're not just like some kind of policy thing, way up in the air. They can
Oh.
totally reshape like entire industries,
Yeah.
even like down to what countries are making the stuff we use every single day.
Okay, so let's break it down real quick.
Okay.
These tariffs, they're basically taxes on goods
Uh-huh.
coming from specific countries, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like where are we talking?
So right now it's mainly China, Mexico, and Canada.
Okay.
Those are the big ones. And initially they were looking at a 25% tariff
Uh,
on goods from Mexico and Canada, and then another 10% on top of what we already have from China.
uh-huh.
But they managed to like work out some deals and postpone those tariffs for Mexico and Canada.
Okay.
But that 10% on China, that's already happening.
So that means that like that new phone, like the new iPhone or whatever,
Right.
could jump up in price just
Yeah.
because it was like put together in China?
Exactly.
That's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, for sure. Especially for people who are buying,
Yeah.
And it's not just like each individual thing companies are
Mm.
already looking at. Like maybe they got to move their whole manufacturing operation
Wow.
out of China
Nice.
just to like avoid these tariffs,
Wow.
So we might see like way more stuff being made in places like, I don't know, Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
Taiwan, or even India.
Made in India instead of made in China.
Right.
That'd be a huge shift. Is that like are companies actually doing that?
It's starting to happen.
Right.
Apple, Apple, they're apparently trying to like make their stuff in more places,
Okay.
and they're looking at India as a big possibility.
Interesting.
So imagine like if all the big companies started doing that.
Right. Yeah, like all the big tech companies and everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that would be crazy.
It would change things.
Yeah, for sure. So then like what about all the logistics, the shipping?
Right, yeah.
Like how do you get all that stuff from wherever they're making it now
Uh-huh.
to the stores, to everybody's houses?
Yeah, that's a big question, right?
Yeah.
How does this change like the whole freight market?
Right. Yeah.
That's a tough one, but some experts are saying like things could slow down.
Really?
Yeah, because if it costs more to bring stuff in, companies might just order less,
Makes sense.
And then that means less stuff to ship around.
But I remember in the article they talked about this pull forward effect.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
What was that again?
So pull forward is like when companies know that prices might go up
Yeah.
or that there might be problems getting stuff later,
Right.
they order a ton of stuff early.
Oh, so they're like stocking up basically.
Yeah, exactly, like stockpiling, just to avoid paying more later.
Okay.
So even if things slow down later because of the tariffs, we might actually see like this big like rush of shipments right now.
Oh, so it's like a temporary bump?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, but how do we even know if that's happening?
So there's this thing called the SONAR Inbound Ocean Ease Index.
What?
It's a IOTI.USA for short.
Okay.
But basically it tracks like every day how many containers are coming into the US.
Oh, so we can see if there's like a big spike,
Exactly.
and then maybe that means there's a rush before the tariffs.
All right?
Okay, so that's pretty useful then.
Yeah, it is. But it's not like perfect.
Right.
Because, for example, the data, like the most recent data for February 6th, it actually shows that the like container shipments they're lower than they were in 2021 and 2022.
Oh, so maybe that rush didn't really happen.
Yeah, maybe not.
Or maybe it already happened and now it's back down.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
What do the experts think about that?
So one of them said that surge, that big increase we saw at the Port of Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
that might have been because of the tariffs,
Okay.
but it also might have been because of all the negotiations with the longshoremen.
Oh, right.
So
Well,
it's tough to separate those two things.
yeah, it's like a lot of stuff happening all at once.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got this weird thing where like the tariffs might slow things down later,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe right now companies are ordering a bunch of stuff
Right.
just to get ahead of it.
To stay ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What about me? Like what about the average person?
Right.
How does this affect like the stuff I buy.
So to really see how it all plays out, we gotta break it down by what we're actually importing, like what kind of stuff.
Okay.
So let's start with China, okay?
Okay.
Like a huge amount of the stuff we get from them is electronics, appliances,
Okay.
like smartphones, laptops, TVs, all that.
So you're saying like my phone, my TV
Could get more expensive? Yeah.
should get more expensive because of these tariffs.
It's possible.
Wow, that's a big deal.
It is, and it might not just be the price going up.
What do you mean?
Like if those companies, if it's costing them more to make stuff,
Uh-huh.
they might have to start cutting corners, you know?
Oh, so the quality might go down.
Exactly.
It's not good.
Not ideal. So
Yeah.
it's not just about like a simple price increase. It's a whole chain reaction.
Right, yeah.
It could affect everybody, businesses and people buying stuff.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. What about other countries?
Sure.
Like what about Canada?
Canada, that's interesting
Okay.
because one of the biggest things we get from them is oil.
Okay.
And if those tariffs ever actually happened,
Yeah.
like if they weren't postponed,
Right.
it could really mess with energy prices here.
Oh, yeah, like gas prices.
Yeah, exactly. And think about how much we drive.
Yeah.
That would be like a big hit to everyone's wallets.
Yeah, for sure.
And then there's Mexico.
Right.
We get a lot of our car parts from them
Okay.
and fresh produce too.
Oh, wow.
So like tariffs on Mexico, that could affect like the car industry and also like what's in the grocery store.
Geez, so it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, it shows how like everything's connected, you know, like
Like-
global trade, it's all linked together.
Yeah.
And even these policies that seem like they're just targeting one thing they can have, like consequences everywhere.
This is already starting to feel kind of complicated,
Yeah.
and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
We've only just begun.
Yeah, where do we go from here?
So to really understand what's going on,
Okay.
we got to look at like specific examples.
Okay.
Like let's look at the auto industry.
Oh yeah, cars.
Yeah.
They're complicated.
are.
There's parts coming from everywhere.
Yeah, it's a global thing.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what tariffs do to that whole system.
Okay. Yeah, let's explore that in part 2.
Sounds good.
Stick around, listeners. It's going to get even more interesting. So, we're back.
Back again?
And we've been talking about like the basics of these tariffs and,
Yeah.
and how they work and stuff.
Right, the ground rules.
But now I want to like get into the weeds a little bit
All right, let's
and see how they're actually playing out
Yeah, get really
in the real world, you know?
absolutely. Let's see how this stuff's actually affecting things.
And I think the auto industry is a good place to start.
Oh yeah,
Because if you think about like how a car is made,
it's global.
it's like the definition of global manufacturing.
Textbook case. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got like parts coming from all over the place.
Dozens of countries, all for one car.
Yeah, and then it all comes together
That's what's
in one finished product.
Yeah.
So like what happens when you throw tariffs into that mix?
It's like throwing a wrench in the gears.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
all of a sudden, those car companies, they're having to pay way more for those parts, and
Right.
that can really hurt their profits.
So what do? Do they just like eat the cost, or do they make us pay for it?
It's a tough call, you know?
Yeah.
It's a balance for sure.
Right.
Sometimes they might absorb some of the hit themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but most likely they're going to have to raise prices on the cars too.
So that new car smell is going to come with a bigger price tag
Probably, yeah.
thanks to the tariffs.
It's possible.
And that's not even like thinking about used cars
Right.
or repairs.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Like if those parts are more expensive,
Yeah.
then it's going to cost more to fix my car too.
Exactly. Those repair bills could start getting pretty hefty.
Yeah, that's not good. So, okay, so we know the auto industry's like feeling the pain here.
Yeah.
But are there any industries that are actually doing better
Oh, interesting.
because of these tariffs? Like there's got to be some winners in all of this, right?
Yeah, for sure. There are definitely some industries that are benefiting from this whole situation.
Okay, so like who are we talking about?
So remember earlier how we were talking about like domestic companies here in the U.S.
Right.
potentially getting a boost?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what's happening in some sectors.
Okay, so like is this like a comeback for American manufacturing?
Potentially, yeah.
Are the tariffs like actually helping that happen?
They could be, yeah.
Okay, give me an example.
Okay, so let's take the steel industry, for example.
Dope.
When they put tariffs on imported steel,
Mm-hmm.
it makes the steel that's made here in the U.S. more competitive price-wise.
Okay.
So suddenly everyone wants American-made steel.
So that's good for like steel workers and stuff.
Exactly. Good for jobs, good for manufacturing here.
But then like what about those companies who are
Yeah.
now using that more expensive American steel?
Right.
Like they're going to have to raise their prices too, right?
Exactly. It's a trade-off.
So it's not as simple as like
Uh-huh.
tariffs are good, tariffs are bad.
It's much more nuanced than that.
Oh.
There's always going to be winners and losers, and
Right.
it's hard to predict how it's all going to play out in the long run.
Yeah. Okay. So it's complicated and it
Yeah.
depends on the industry.
Yeah, you got to look at each one individually.
Okay. Okay. I'm getting it. But what about something that's like more relatable?
Sure.
Something that like affects everyone, like how much we're spending every day.
All right, well, how about groceries?
Groceries.
Yeah, remember we were talking about how we get a lot of produce from Mexico?
Huh?
If they put tariffs on that stuff,
Yeah.
we're going to see prices go up?
Wait, so you're saying my grocery bill could go up
It's possible.
because of these tariffs?
Yeah.
Man, that's hitting everyone where it hurts.
It is right in the wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking like tomatoes, berries, peppers,
like all the good stuff.
all the essentials,
Yeah.
even avocados for that guacamole.
Oh, man.
All of that could get more expensive.
So this isn't just some like abstract policy thing. It's really affecting what I'm eating and how much I'm paying for it.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's crazy. So what are people going to do then?
That's a good question. Like, how are consumers going to react to these price hikes?
Yeah.
They might start looking for cheaper options,
Okay.
maybe switch to different brands,
Right.
or even cut back on certain things altogether.
Oh, wow. So it could actually change.
Like what we eat.
It could change our eating habits.
Yeah.
Like if those avocados get too expensive,
Yeah.
people might start buying more local produce.
Right. Even if it costs a little more.
Exactly. It's all about adapting.
And then there's like the environmental impact of that too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
If people are buying more local stuff,
Yeah.
then you don't have to ship it as far.
Less transportation,
Yeah.
smaller carbon footprint.
Wow. So these tariffs, they have all these like unintended consequences.
It's a chain reaction.
Yeah, good and bad.
Yeah.
It's like you pull on one thread and this whole web,
A whole thing unravels.
yeah, this whole web of stuff starts to change.
It's fascinating, really.
It is. It is. It's a lot to like wrap your head around,
It is.
but it's important to understand,
Absolutely, especially as consumers.
Yeah.
We need to know how this stuff affects us.
Right.
From the cars we drive to the food we eat. Exactly. So where do we go from here?
All right. So in part 3,
Okay.
let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
Look at the big picture.
Okay.
We've seen how these tariffs change manufacturing, how they affect prices, how they even change what people buy.
Right.
So the big question is, what does this mean for globalization?
Okay. Yeah, that's a big one. All right. So we've been like really deep in the weeds
Yeah.
with these tariffs and how they're affecting like cars and food and everything.
Right. All the specifics.
Yeah, but now I want to zoom out
Okay.
and think about like the bigger picture.
The scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Like we talk about how manufacturing's changing and prices are going up and people are even buying different stuff.
Yeah. Consumer behavior is shifting.
So what does all this mean for like globalization?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
for decades, we've seen this push toward like more global integration. Companies making stuff wherever it's cheapest, most efficient.
Right, yeah.
But now with all this like trade war stuff
Right.
and all the tension between countries,
Yeah.
some people are wondering if that whole like free-flowing global trade thing, if that's coming to an end.
It's like we're at this like fork in the road.
Yeah.
Like on one hand, we've got all this history of like interconnectedness
Yeah.
and global trade.
Right.
But then on the other hand, there's all these forces like pulling us apart.
Pushing us in different directions.
Yeah, like toward more like regional economies.
Yeah, exactly.
And the tariffs, that's like part of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're like
right.
a symptom of that bigger tension.
Absolutely. Some experts are saying that these tariffs they're like part of a bigger trend towards like protectionism and moving away from like global cooperation.
So instead of this like flat world idea where everything's just flowing freely.
Yeah. Seamless trade.
Yeah. Are we moving towards like a world of regional blocks?
It's possible.
Like each with their own rules and
Yeah, their own little alliances.
yeah, stuff like that.
It's a possibility.
Wow.
We could see companies like really focusing on building their supply chains
Okay.
within their own regions,
Mm-hmm.
to minimize the risk
Okay.
from all this geopolitical stuff.
So instead of like getting materials from all over the world,
Right.
they're going to focus on suppliers that are closer to home.
Exactly. It's all about managing risk,
Okay.
building like more resilient supply chains.
But wouldn't that like make things more expensive?
It might in the short term.
Right.
But the idea is it creates more stability,
Okay.
more predictability in the long run.
Right. So it's like a trade-off.
Exactly. It's always a balancing act
Yeah.
between like cost and resilience.
So like for me as a consumer,
Yeah.
what does this regionalization thing like actually mean?
So it could mean a few things. We might see less choice, for one,
Oh, okay.
and prices could go up
Right.
if
Yeah.
companies are making stuff closer to home.
Okay.
It could also mean less competition,
Uh-huh.
which could also drive up prices.
So like all those cheap goods that we're used to.
Yeah, those super cheap imports,
Yeah.
those might become a thing of the past.
Wow. Okay. So is there anything good about this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Like one potential upside is we might see a resurgence in local businesses,
Okay.
more emphasis on like quality and craftsmanship.
Uh-huh.
If people are willing to pay a little extra for
Huh.
stuff that's made locally,
Yeah.
it could really help local economies.
So instead of buying that like mass-produced thing,
Right.
I might buy something that's made locally.
Yeah, something with a story behind it.
Yeah. And it's supporting my community.
Exactly. It's a shift in how we think about things.
And what about like all this technology stuff?
Oh, yeah. Automation,
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah, like is that part of this whole shift too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, as companies are trying to be more efficient, more resilient,
Huh.
they're turning to technology more and more to
Right.
to automate stuff, to optimize their supply chains.
So it's like technology's changing the game
It is. It's a game changer
for businesses, for
for
consumer.
everyone.
Yeah, for the whole global economy.
The whole system.
Yeah. It seems like things are changing so fast,
They are. It's a rapid evolution.
and it's kind of hard to keep up.
It can be.
Yeah.
But the key is to be adaptable,
Right.
Be willing to learn new things.
Yeah.
Embrace the change.
Wow, this has been a really incredible deep dive.
It has.
We've talked about tariffs and supply chains and globalization.
The whole shebang.
Yeah, and like I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
I hope our listeners have too.
I hope so.
So, to everyone listening,
Yeah.
stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
The world's a complex place,
It is.
but understanding how it all works,
Mhm.
it's essential for navigating all the challenges and the opportunities that are out there.
And remember, every challenge is also an opportunity.
Wow.
So, by understanding these trends, by being adaptable, we can create a better future.
A more resilient future.
Yeah, for ourselves and for generations to come.
That's the goal.